Look, I don't know who needs to hear this, but that man was never going to change. He was never, listen to me. Come here. He was never going to change. He was never going to start being accountable. He was never going to acknowledge the way that he had hurt you. He was never going to take full accountability for how he didn't show up, for what he promised you that he didn't deliver. He was never going to change. If you're listening to this right now, and at any point in the last however long, and you're still dealing with it, you've been trying to process an experience that doesn't make sense. You've been trying to come to terms with something and wrestle with whether or not you gave up too quickly, or whether or not you should have been more understanding or compassionate or forgiving, or whether or not you did something that led to the situation being what it was. And maybe if you just had not done that, I'm here to clear all that out. That man was never going to change. Now, I know you probably think, well, Derek, how do you know? You don't know. No. I'm going to give you the specific circumstances that I'm speaking to, because I know that somebody out there listening is dealing with a man. And as you tried to be more accountable, as you try to be more self-aware, because you're a growth-oriented woman, as you try to evolve through this painful situation in a way where you're doing better, you're showing up better to produce a better outcome, I want you to know something. There are situations where, and more than likely, if you fit the description of what I'm about to tell you, you're in the situation now where that man was never going to change. And maybe you're still dealing with him. He's never going to change. Now, why am I saying all of this? Let me back up. Because right now, I was really just getting ready to go live with my inner circle. For those who don't know, that's my private mentorship community. Right now, we're doing the Selfish Season Challenge. A lot of you have actually joined. Shout out to y'all who are seeing the results already, right? So as I'm prepping to do that, in which I'm going live with them right after this, with my private mentorship, I saw a message from one of those who had the Selfish Season Challenge. And where she was at was the point where, she had did this, that, and the other, but she was trying to figure out whether or not she should leave the man that she was dealing with. They got years invested, blah, 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 right? So to save y'all the long story, she essentially was saying, like, how do I know I'm making the right decision by walking away? How do I know? What if I'm not? What if I'm this? What if I'm that? So I hopped in her inbox, asked her a couple of questions, and long story short, I told her, like I'm gonna tell y'all, you've done your part to communicate. You've done your part to be graceful. You've done your part to be patient. You've done your part to be clear on what you need. You've done your part to even be long suffering, in which honestly should be reserved for marriage. I'm a biblical man. I believe in the Bible. Some of y'all don't. That's fine. Long suffering is a part of healthy relationships. And it doesn't mean endless suffering. It doesn't mean indefinite suffering. Long suffering is essentially not leaving at the first sight of trouble or the first discomfort, because maybe there's something behind that. You're dealing with a human being. At times you need grace, but that's to be deployed in marriage. That's to be deployed with a certain caliber of man who's not taking advantage of that. So what I was telling her, because she's also a biblical woman, I was like, hey, look, before you even try to apply certain things or question if you left too soon, understand you've already stayed too long, because that man was never going to change. How do I know that? Because as a man, first off, let me just see, am I talking to anybody? Because this is one of those that's not going to be very popular. Put I down in the chat if you've ever dealt with a man who did you wrong, and with all that you had fought for and all that you had experienced, you still had questions as to whether or not you gave up too soon. If there was something you could have done differently. Put I down in the chat if you've ever wrestled with that. You left somebody, the relationship was really tough and challenging, but you did have some questions lingering, like if you left too soon, like, or did you do something? Did you do something wrong? Could you have done something better? Put I down in the chat if that's ever been you. I want to know if I'm talking to anybody real quick. All right, I see that I am. I'm in the right place. You said you loved the masterclass, great information. Glad you loved it. Yeah, the one we're doing right after this with the Selfish Season Challenge members is going to be astronomically better. But back to what I was saying. So for those who are new here, I'm no perfect man. I don't stand on no pedestal. I'm your big brother. I come to give you the truth. You do with this what you will. But I spent most of my 20s doing BS. I spent my early 30s, almost the first half of my 30s, paying for it. And rightfully so. But here's the thing. In that time where I was making the pivot from a man who just simply knew what to do, to a man that was actually embodying and developed enough to actually translate that into actions, I came across other men on the same path. And what I notice is that there's a common denominator in us versus the guys who are never going to change. That common denominator was this and is this, is that we never felt like what we did was on anybody else but us. We never felt like that. I never took that on. These gentlemen never took that on. From a professional experience, I've never seen the man who's evolved and grown out of certain spaces that he was in and certain mindsets ever have the disposition of somebody else is at fault. It's her, it's this, it's that. What I have seen is guys who maybe have repeated a pattern because they didn't know the right way to come out of that pattern, or whatever. They were in survival mode. But if you ever got down to the nitty gritty, even if you talk to older dudes that fumbled a good woman, etc., and you talk to them, a lot of them say, "Man, I was a problem. I was tripping out." But the ones who never ever change are the ones that will blame you, that will blame shift, that will go and find another woman who's too weak, doesn't have enough self-esteem in order to stand their ground and assert themselves, as they will leave this man if he continues. That they'll go find somebody else who will put up with their nonsense. They find a way out. They escape accountability. They escape the consequences. They want to escape the bed that they made. They don't want to lie in it. They want to escape. They'll block you out of anger, as opposed to how you got to, they'll block you out of anger. You block them out of peace to get your peace back. Right? But they'll block you out of anger to try and rattle you and shake you up, to make you feel, again, in doubt about you standing firm on what you need out of the relationship and what you will not tolerate anymore. Those are the two separators. Like, people hear me talking, and a lot of times they just, "Oh, Derek, you like the guys are just bad." And I'm like, no. Again, I'm your big brother. What I want to be able to provide you guys is the equipment, the tools to better relate to men in a way that they can understand. Like, here's the raw, honest truth of how you can get across what you need to a man in a language that's going to resonate with him, how you can understand him so you can love him better. Matter of fact, again, after this, we're going to talk about how to prevent self-sabotaging, because that's what a lot of women do when you come from a guy who mishandled you. But before we can get to how to relate to the right man better, we first have to be able to discern when you're dealing with somebody who's never going to be better. When the way that he's dog walking you now, or that he did in the last relationship, or in the last time that y'all tried a relationship, is going to continue. The number one determining factor is, who does he blame? When you bring up to him, "Hey, I feel like this, I've experienced that whenever you've done me wrong, hurt me, talked to me like this, neglected me, put me on the back burner," who does he blame? If you ain't got, if you don't have a dude that's at minimum honestly acknowledging that he's the one to blame, his actions. Yeah, you may have made him feel like this. Yeah, you may have done something a year ago. Yeah, his daddy may have left him on whenever he was one. Yes, whatever. He got left at the fire station whenever he was a baby. Whatever. If he's blaming anybody but himself, if he's looking anywhere else other than the mirror at the man that's staring back at him, that man was never going to change. And I'm going to tell you something. When y'all come to me, I got you, first off. Especially, I only have so much capacity. I'm one man. But for those of you, especially who are in my inner circle, and I got you. And even if I just see you on social media in the comment section, if I can't, I got you. But what I've noticed is a lot of y'all are coming to me because you can't come to him. Can I keep it real with y'all for a second? A lot of y'all are coming to me asking me questions. And it's not because you're dumb or incompetent. It's not that. It's simply that at that point that you come to me, you've already explored the option of communicating to him, and it's not working. So what you're coming to me and asking is, D, how do I better communicate to closed ears, to a hardened heart, to a man who really don't care what I got to say? That's what you're asking me. And for me, I hate that space, not because it frustrates me, man. I'm gonna give you what I got. What you do with it is on you. Again, I'm just your big bro. I'm not your preacher. I'm not your guru or expert to tell you how to live and make you do anything. I'm just here to offer and empty myself out before I leave this earth in the way that God has equipped me to help other people. That's all I am here to do. But what really hurts me is that I know that question of, D, how do I talk to closed ears? How do I reach and penetrate a closed and hardened heart? That window of time is very short. Because what immediately follows afterwards are the questions of, do I even deserve a man who's listening to me? Do I even deserve to be heard out? Think about it. For those of you who have ever tried to start a business, pursue higher education, you know that space when things ain't going right and you're saying, I got to figure this out. How do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? You can start if you really don't get to the next level of that and you don't figure something out. At some point, the questions turn into, man, can I even do this? Maybe I'm not good enough to do this. Maybe I'm not competent enough to hang. And you have a lot of people who give up there, right? But some people persevere. And if you're that person that persevered, fine. But you were dealing with an inanimate object. You were dealing with education or a job or bit. You weren't dealing with somebody who has their own willpower, their own intentions. They have their own value system, their own experiences that shape them. They have their own demons that they fight. And so now when you come into a relationship, you're thinking that, well, if I just continue going hard at this, I can figure this out. And it's like, no, sis, like what's about to happen is you're trying to defy and override another grown man's intentional decisions to willfully and blatantly disrespect you. And so you're going to go from the questions of, Derek, how do I make this work? Derek, how, do I leave? Or am I making the right? You're going to go from those questions to the questions of, without you asking me, do I even deserve a good man? Do I even deserve real love? Do I even deserve to be validated and seen? Do I even deserve to be considered before a man does certain things or how he moves? Do I even deserve to be a priority? That's the next level of questions. And that's a very damaging place to be. Because what your brain, what your mind, what your heart is looking for is some level of peace over the situation. It can't fight forever. You can't fight forever. Nobody can fight forever. That's when people go to prison, they might have a space where they're just going crazy and eventually they succumb. They concede, they give in. Because your brain, it cannot be at war forever. At some point, it's going to acclimate. Either it's going to prevail or it's going to acclimate. And so when you're dealing with a man who's never going to change and you keep dealing with him, you're going to acclimate down. You're going to regress in your self-esteem. You're going to find that space to be tolerant. And that is a destructive place to be. You pay the price. Your children pay the price. Your friends and family pay the price. Your destiny pays the price. Those who you could have inspired pay the price. Am I making sense to anybody? Because I know I'm already in that mindset where I'm about to go in for my inner circle members. But are those of you who are listening here, am I making sense to you? If I'm speaking facts, let me know I'm speaking facts. If I'm speaking fiction, let me know I'm speaking fiction. So what I'm getting at here is when you're dealing with a man, again, doesn't take accountability. And that doesn't take accountability can take the form of him going to find somebody who don't know how he be lying in order to make you feel like you're in competition with, in order to make you feel like he's upgraded to. Yeah, I got me a good woman. I got me a real woman. I got me a more submissive woman. Nah, you got a woman. And I'm not trying to bash the next woman, but you got you a woman that's just dumb, bro. Like I would tell any guy in this situation, if I'm talking to him and he just straight up, just blatantly oblivious, man, I was just watching something. And y'all, I'm a man I'm wanting to have compassion with my brothers who done some nonsense because I love the growth. After experiencing it myself, I love seeing that in other men. Side note, I'm going on a side quest, whatever. I can keep it real with y'all. I saw this dude talking about how he cheated on his wife, right? And he was in an interview. Some of y'all may have seen it. It was actually a podcast segment with my dude, David Shands. Shout out to David. And the dude was like, yeah, man, right now I'm in a season. Right now I'm overcoming. I'm surviving. David was like, what you overcoming? What you surviving? He said, man, I cheated on my wife. David was like, sound like she the one that's overcoming and surviving. I already knew it was downhill from there, but it gets worse. So David said, hey, what are you doing to excel and exceed as a husband now? Because like me, David loves the story of growth. We all understand men, start off one place, can mess up, et cetera, et cetera. He's trying to, steer the conversation towards growth. The brother said, I saw this is one of the things I did. He excited too. I'm talking about passionate. This is one of the things I did. I sent her a text message with a blue heart. And then the next day I sent her another one with 2 blue hearts. And then the next day after that, I did it with 3. And then from there, I just was like, what if I could keep this up? And then I did it for 3 weeks. And then I stopped. I ain't gonna lie, I stopped, but I did it for 3 weeks. And David was sitting there as dumbfounded to some of y'all that are listening to me now. And as I was listening, like, what is he talking about? You see, me, David, anybody else listening is not at the point of, oh, you should have been perfect. You should have been this, that, and the other. It's not about perfection, right? We're just literally looking at the oblivion of some men, but it's on display here because he literally could not conceive like the real root of what he did wrong. Therefore, he couldn't conceive how to be better than that, how to provide some type of safety now, how to grow. He couldn't, because he couldn't even understand, or he willfully refused to try and understand how he was the problem. Now, what am I using this as an example for? Because there are men out here who honestly, either they don't get it or they don't want to get it. They don't understand or they don't want to understand. And you ain't got enough life to live. I don't care how young you are. We ain't got but so much time on this earth, and none of us know the day nor time where we're going to be out. You ain't got enough time to be trying to get somebody like that to get it. And so whenever y'all come to me or I see you and you're trying to get this type of person to get it, and I know they either don't want to get it or they cannot get it, it pains me, because the price you pay for that is eventually you regressing down to where you don't even have the hope or the aspiration of being with a man who gets it. Some of y'all probably saw that same podcast segment. It's going viral. I don't know. But here's the next part of that story for the woman who continues to deal with and try or question herself. And she's really just dealing with a man who doesn't get it. And he's never going to change. He can't even acknowledge that he's the root of everything he's caused. Eventually, you get out of position. You see, as a good woman, you're supposed to be with a good man. Like, that's what you're attracting by being a good woman. You're attracting a good man. That's just how the universe works. It's how God works. You sow good seed, you reap a good harvest. If you're sowing good seed as a good woman, you're reaping a good harvest. The problem is some of y'all are sowing great seed as a great woman, but then you get out of position. You're no longer even on that farm where you were sowing that good seed, and now you can't even reap your harvest because you get over here on the farm with somebody who don't get it, or you get so used to somebody who don't get it, and you think, well, no, I can never reap the harvest I'm supposed to reap, so I might as well just deal with this barren land. And what that means, without being all figurative and stuff, is essentially you get to a point where you regress, you acclimate down, you deal with this guy, you anchor yourself in, you lower your expectations, you lower your standards for somebody that you've invested in. And now, even if that man was to fall off the face of the earth and you have an opportunity to now be with somebody, your whole mindset, your heart, your posture, it's no longer compatible with the man that you deserve. This is the part where a lot of y'all can get mad at me. I'm cutting this off, D. You can, by way of giving your love to somebody who don't deserve it, become incompatible with the man who does. And that's what we're going to talk about. Matter of fact, I mean, make sure I'm not missing time, is it? Because it's going to be a few more minutes where I got to go. We're going to talk about how to make sure that you don't end up in this boat. But that is what happens. So when I'm talking about a man who don't get it, a man who's never going to change, this ain't about you being judgmental. This is about you being discerning. This ain't about you being unforgiving. This is about you accepting when somebody else don't want to be better or do better, and understanding that you deserve better. If that man is blaming you, manipulating you, looking for an easy way out, looking for an escape, not taking personal initiative and assertiveness to be a better version of himself, and even if he is, that don't mean that he warrants a second chance. I'm talking to somebody who's needed a second chance before, and guess what? I didn't deserve any. I was never entitled. And any man who messes up the first one is never entitled. But if you're even in the space of, should I give this another chance? Should I give this further consideration? You got to understand that that man is not willing to first be accountable in any way if he blames you. If in any way he crucifies you or judges you for your part in the situation, no. His decisions were his decisions. And now your decision is your decision. Because you don't have to settle for that, sis. Like, you don't. You don't have to deal with a man who doesn't know a queen when he sees one. How long do you think it's supposed to take for this man to recognize that you're valuable? And that if he really wants to keep you in his life, he also has to keep you safe in his life. And that may require him to confront and deal with the versions of himself or the aspects of himself that are unsafe for you to love. How long do you think that's supposed to take? It's been 10 years. It's been 15 years. Honestly, if it's been 1 year, if it's been 6 months, let me get all the way real, and you haven't seen any tangible progress from that man, and now this is given that You've done your part to communicate. I don't want to make it seem like y'all ain't got a responsibility in all of this. The first and the only responsibility you have when it comes to a man loving you correctly is simply to communicate what you need. That's the part of self-love that includes understanding, you working on yourself, you have a self-awareness. Absolutely. He can know how to be a man, know how to love, but not know how to love you specifically until you let him in on that. But what I'm noticing is a lot of you are past that. You've already conceived the kind of love you want to give to a man. You're not just a lover girl in what you want to receive. You know what you want to be able to give. You know what that looks like. So you know what it is you need. You know what it is that a man may need, and you're ready, but you're dealing with somebody who don't give a damn. Can I keep it real with y'all? And so now you're over here and you're looking for listening ears and open heart because your heart so desperately wants to connect with somebody who's ready and deserving to receive it. And what I'm here to tell you is, if you're dealing with a man and he ain't trying to hear what you have to say until you walk out that door, or he's hearing what you have to say just so he can flip it around and spin it around to keep frustrating you and trying to convince you that you're really the problem. If you're with a man and all he's trying to do is make you feel like he can do so much better than you, he's the prize, you better be grateful or feel grateful. I'm here to tell you to stop wasting your time. That man is never going to change. And at some point, he's going to end up changing you. He's going to end up changing your heart. He's going to end up changing your positioning for who you truly deserve. But it's not too late. It's never too late, really. Once you decide it's enough, enough is enough, it's never too late. May it be painful? Sure. But that's where you give yourself the community that's going to keep you strong. That's where you give yourself the resources so that the steps that you take are more effective in this process of healing and getting over this man and getting positioned for the man that you deserve is much quicker. Only you can control that. Now, again, if you want my resources, I'm about to go live here in a couple of minutes, privately though, for my inner circle. If you want my resources and you want my help on a much deeper level, click the link that you see pinned down in the comments, and you can get access to the Selfish Season Challenge before the doors close on it. And you can hop on the next part of this where I give the tangible tools on how to prevent yourself from self-sabotaging a good man because you spent too long with the wrong man or the wrong men. So many women get in that position. But back to what I was saying, for those of you who are in question about, should I leave? Should I go? Is he going to change? Is he going to be better? It's hard for me to give you all the long, but you don't need a long story. If that man is still blaming you, he's not going to change. The moment you hear that man deflecting or going somewhere else, you need to now take a note from him and replicate his closed ears and stop listening. Because the moment you stop listening is the moment he loses access to further traumatize you. But those are just my thoughts. I'm your big bro, per usual, trying to look out for you. If you got something to value from this, hit that share button. Because I guarantee you, somebody on your timeline, one of your friends, family members, nieces, and nephews, somebody needs to hear this truth. Hit that share button. Don't cost you nothing. And if you do want more, if you do want to get my specific strategies on how to now get in position for the man who is equally yoked with you on your integrity level, on your character level, on your growth level, how to make sure you're not the problem whenever you do come across that man, because he will find you. He will find you. If you want access to that, again, I'm going live here in a couple of minutes with my inner circle. The link is at the bottom to join the Selfish Season Challenge. It comes with all the other modules. My book, From Heartache to Happiness, that's only available for my inner circle members, by the way. This is not available publicly yet. And I don't know if it will be for the next 6 months. But if you want access to this now, it comes with the Selfish Season Challenge. Click that link. Holla at your lady. I'll be good. Peace.